Thank you, guys. Let us get situated here just momentarily. Thank you, guys. You guys are tired of me talking. Did the opening remarks. Was anybody not here in the opening remarks? Raise your hand if you don't know what's happening right now. Anybody? Oh, we got one. Okay, all right. I got to explain it. Okay. We are switching gears just a little bit. The next two groups on the schedule are going to focus on 2026. So when we were making the preliminary schedule, I had this down as appetizers. And the reason being is we want to titillate and excite you guys and get you interested in 2026. And what WTGS did is we got some funds together with the help of the foundation. We got some summer interns, UTPB history grad students, to come dig through our dusty archives, dig in the storage areas, climb up on ladders, get stuff off of boxes, and find the stuff that we have that we don't know we have. And we started, it was basically, we don't know what we have. We want to catalog whatever it is and then show a little bit 2025, and that's what the appetizers are going to do here, and then excite you guys about 2026 when we're having almost a double size convention. So weekends and nights and people working around graduations and other jobs, and we want to really give some appreciation for these students working around stuff, working around their own schedules and our schedules too. And so I have not seen this, so I'm excited to. So what we're going to do is they're each going to come up and talk about their portion. We kind of broke it up into little sections, little portions of what we wanted them to focus on, and they kind of picked and worked out amongst themselves too. And they have one combined PowerPoint slide that has some videos. They're going to talk and tell some stories, and basically this is show and tell. So this part of the thing is going to be show and tell, and we're going to follow, once the students are done, we're going to follow that with Bob Treneman, Bob Lindsay, talking about the core project, which is also a 2026 appetizer as well too. So, okay, just yeah, go ahead and start. Do you know which slide it is? Okay, cool. Yeah, can you guys fast forward about 5 or 6 slides maybe to innovations?
Oh wait, hold on, she's here.
Yeah, it's okay. We don't want to go out of breath. It's okay. You can go ahead and go. A little bit more. Don't let people see that stuff. Keep going. Keep going. There, right there. Okay. Yes. This is better. So this is Katie Corral, one of the summer interns that helped out this year. And she'll go ahead and start. Show and tell.
Hello, thank you for the introduction, Jed. My name is Katie Corral. I am over here overviewing the West Texas Geological Society's dedications to innovations. Now, when I was looking through a lot of the things, I found a lot of extraordinary people. A lot of books written, a lot of books published, and then given into other colleges to teach in curriculums or even cited as other things for promotional material and stuff like that. But I want to focus on a specific gentleman today, all in this briefcase. Now, they had absolutely no idea what was in this briefcase. It could have been rocks, it could have been dirt, it could have been literally anything. But when we looked in the suitcase, we figured out it belonged to a gentleman. Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. It belonged to a gentleman named Billy J. Wright. A lot of the documents refer to him as Billy, so I will be referring to him as Billy in this presentation. He was born around the 1930s in Seymour, Texas. He came over here after he graduated from the Texas Tech Institute as a geologist in the 1950s. He worked in the Permian Basin Sample Lab underneath as a sample examiner and also as a lab assistant. He helped with a lot of, sorry about that. He helped with a lot of research projects underneath his doctorate, Carl Clement. A lot of these studies are not dedicated to him, so I will not be focusing on these studies that he helped with because that is under his doctorate. Sorry about that. But over those years as a lab assistant, in 20 years, he looked over at samples within the Permian to the Devian basins. Sorry about that. I am not a geologist. Y'all guys could correct me. I would love it if y'all guys correct me. I want to know more about this field. He looked over at these samples and figured out something with the carbonate study that he later then published. This study is what I will be focusing on for the rest of the presentation. He even received an award for this many years later that I actually do have in this briefcase that I'll actually show you. Sorry about that. Ooh, that was loud. I'm not used to a microphone. Here is his plaque. It says that he won outstanding service for the geological profession and fellow geologist. Way to go. That's very proud of him. Very proud of him. Give him a clap. I know he's dead, but I mean, that's pretty great for him. Anyway, thank you. Now, what is this carbonate study? He actually published a book about this in 1997. Sorry, I forgot. There we go. Nope. Sorry, technical issues. Can you go back to these 2 slides before, please? Sorry about that. I have never worked this remote. Yes, no. 1 more slide, please. There we go. Nope. Oh my. I'm sorry about this, everyone. There we go. That one. Yes, thank you. He published a book called, okay, there we go. He published a book called The Study of Carbonate Environments Using Well Cuts. What he basically did is he went to the New Mexico area and basically sampled a well from the Permian layer to the Devonian layers, and basically concluded that there are 7 types of carbonate basins. This is the basin facies, the wave 4 back bank, the forebank, the biogenic bank, the core bank, the bank flat, the lagoon, and the shelf facies. What do all those mean? You know? Yes, I actually do. There's actually samples of them later on. A lot of the top layers of these basins over here, do we know where the light is? I kind of want to point at these. Okay, thank you. A lot of the basins over here are basically concluded with how much shell or crystallization or even allochemics is what he quoted in a study. He basically means fossils. Y'all probably knew that. Look. Is found in each layer. The basin layer is with the least amount of hard sediment and the least amount of allochemicals and the least likely to have recrystallization. As everything moves on to the shell, that is basically where most of those allochemics occur, and basically help the way to store more carbonates and also help with wells for oil, for hydrocarbons, all of that fantastic stuff. Basically, there's also some stuff over here with the most found rocks in those carbon wells, such as, I can't really see that far, but a lot of them have biogenics, especially the biogenic bank. No duh, that's kind of why it's called that. These are where the most of the fossils lie, and I believe that is where the Mississippian layer is most dedicated. Y'all guys can correct me on that. I do not know. He only really quoted this well, and also I will show you another well he dedicated to this. This is a more formatted well. This is more logged as a stratigraph than the previous one. Basically what he found is that a lot of these are formatted in a way for carbon rock, like limestone, sandstone, and all those other stuff. Micronite, I believe that's what it's called, micronite? Micrate, yes, micrate. And they are identified as I stated before, the carbon rocks that are laid inside them, the most common rocks found in these layers, and also the fossils, the recrystallization, and also other like loose sediment. Most of the loose sediment rocks will be found in the lagoons, which I believe are right above the shelves most of the time, because the shelves are the hardest layer to cut through, basically. He concluded that a lot of these facies are very important to identify because if you identify them, you can understand more of the geological history within that area. If you understand more of the geological history within that area, you can basically find out where more opportunity for more wells can be cut through. Such as this very first well right here, this was the more successful well, while the lowest well was actually this D well right here. This is because there was actually more Permian to cut through to the basins right here. And also this was a transgressional, I believe, fault, while the D was more of a regressional fault. So that is why the A is more successful with log wells, so they can cut more oil, cut more hydrocarbons, and also find more natural gases here. While in the D, there is very more likely anomalies, more fossils in the way, more crystals in the way, so they cannot cut through that. here's actually some samples for each of the layers. I actually did the first time. What's happening? Oh, next slide. Can you go to the previous slide? I'm so sorry. There we go. Here are the few samples that I got out of 10 figures. He had so many samples of each rock within each layer. These are the most main rocks that are found within these layers. These are the more common ones, and also the most likely to identify, because actually the lagunal and I believe the forebank, which is this third one right here, are actually the hardest to identify, because they can also fall into other banks before them. Like the forebank can fall into the wave bank, but it can also fall into the bank core, while the lagunal bank can fall into the bank flat or the shelf. But it's most likely the shelf, because lagunal has more sediment, more looser sediment, and all that kind of stuff. As you see here, basin is more solid, it has less fractures in it, it has more solid features, more stoner features, and then as you go and you go and you go, they become more looser, they have less grain, they have more crystals, and even more faults in them. Like as this shelf figure right here, there are more holes in it, there are more faults in it, there are more things that will basically ruin a sample. He posted this study in a book. This book sold to the Colorado School of Mines, even UTEP and all these other things, all the other schools that focus with geology, geosciences, and other formations of mountains, basically. He was criticized for the study, though, mostly because of the lagunal faults right here. This lagunal fault, many people criticize that he cannot categorize a lagunal fault with many banks and many facies, because lagunals are very, very, very sediment heavy, and they are very loose rock. As you can see right here, there are only really 2 solid rocks, and everything else is a looser sediment. So they were basically criticizing him to say that he can't really dedicate a whole study to finding these solid rocks within a carbonate well if there is a loose well in the middle of it, right here. But even though with this criticization, he's actually a very credited geologist, as I stated before. He even won an award with it. And I believe that this is a very interesting study, especially to come out of this specific society, because many of the history that I found was usually just them taking things from Schlumberger, Halliburton, and all the other big oil companies or even chemical companies and processing it to the Permian area. But because this was founded in the Permian area and even sold within it, I think this is a huge study, especially for the West Texas Geological Society. And I'm very glad and I'm very proud to present it as my example and my sample for the next symposium. And hopefully I can find more about this. I really want to find out more about this. I want to find out more about Billy Wright himself, if he published any other studies. So if anybody has any information on him or any questions on him, when we get to our Q&A portion, or just commentary portion, I would really love to hear it from y'all, especially since y'all guys are actual professionals in the field. I am unfortunately an undergrad, so I do not know much about this kind of stuff. But I would really like to hear from y'all, and also my other associates would like to hear from y'all too, and I will give it over to Haley. Oh, and I mean to Judd. I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie. Miles Henderson is the department head for geosciences back there at UTPB. You should go see him and change your major right now. Okay, next up, we'll have Jessica Connor come up and talk.
Good morning. We'll go back to the beginning. My apologies. Okay, what a thrill it has been for us to be chosen to facilitate a piece of West Texas history. As a 5th-generation Midlander and a 4th-generation oilfield brat, West Texas dirt and mud are in my blood. In the post-war 1940s, my great-grandfather Hap Harrison, a salesman for Schlumberger, teamed up with 2 of his neighbors, oil and gas attorney Fred Cassidy, whose daughter is right over there, and West Texas Geological Society member and president geologist George Gibson. The trio began a successful land brokerage that continued to be a legacy for our family still to this day. In the late 1970s, Hap took an Austin transplant, my father, Roger Hill, who is also in the audience, under his wing, and with his connections helped my father establish a one-man independent mud logging career that spanned 5 decades. Though a career in oil and gas industry has never been my goal, it brings me great joy to apply my historical research and skills to contribute to the industry. In preparation for the West Texas Geological Society's 100-year anniversary, our directions for this project were just what I like to hear. Go through the archives, dig around, get dirty, and see what you can find. The first day we were able to get into the Midland Energy Library, we stumbled across a legendary box of film slides and 16mm film rolls, a field trip dating back from 1949 to 1974, courtesy of the West Texas Geological Society's unofficial and sometimes official documentary, Bert Haig. Born in California in 1890, Haig was orphaned at the age of 10 and lived with relatives, dropping out of high school to work odd jobs and make ends meet. As he was building a career in the auto industry and serving the California National Guard, Haig was deployed to France in 1918 upon the state's entry into World War I, where he delivered ammunition to the front lines. After exposure to phosphine gas, acute respiratory problems would force Haig to leave the automotive industry in California for a healthier climate if he wanted to live more than a year. Following the doctor's orders, Haig set himself on an epic path that would redefine the study of West Texas geological landscape. At the ripe age of 35, Haig graduated College of the Mines in El Paso, Texas, with a major in engineering and a minor in geology. In 1925, after graduating from college, Haig took a job with the Dixie Oil Company, where he served as a field geologist and documentarian and surveyor in San Angelo until 1928, when he returned to College of the Mines as an associate professor of geology. Once oil was discovered on university lands, Haig would be one of the first geologists employed by the University of Texas Lands Office and would spend the summers conducting field work. He continued his field work full-time until the University of Texas Lands Office after moving to San Angelo in 1934 and eventually relocating to Midland. For his first official West Texas Geological Society committee position, Haig was joined by H.P. Bybee and Taylor Cole to compose the first annual development paper covering oil development in West Texas and southeastern New Mexico, which was published by the AAPG Bulletin in June of 1938, spurring off a two-part West Texas-New Mexico symposium that followed up in January 1940 and April 1942 AAPG bulletins. The following year, Haig was the president of the West Texas Geological Society and established and chaired the Merit Award Committee, which honored outstanding geology students from Texas Tech and College of the Mines with a 2-year paid membership to the AAPG. During his tenure as president, oil demand was high due to the war in Europe, and drilling activity in West Texas and southeastern Mexico increased significantly. Will you play the video, please? Over the next 20 years, Haig remained an active committee member within WTGS, serving on various committees. From 1943 to 1945, he was a committee member for the Merit Awards and field naming. In 1946, he joined the Field Trip Committee, and 1947 and 1948, he was a member of the Program Committee. However, throughout the 1950s, Haig landed on the committee that fit his niche, Historical Film and Records Committee, established in 1950. He would chair this committee from 1950 to 1955. In 1955, President Addison Young would express a hint of exasperation with the large number of committee operating within West Texas Geological Society, after a friend suggested writing a committee report on the Committee of Faults, Fractures, and Coffee Breaks, met 17 times and adjourned. Needless to say, the number of committees was downsized the following year, including the Committee of Historical Film and Records, which would make a brief triumphant return in 1959, chaired, of course, by Haig. However, Haig did not need a committee to continue his film documentation. From 1956 to 1958, he would chair the Field Trip Committee, which he passionately supported, and had this to say regarding the importance of field trip participation. Replay the audio. Bottom left corner.
very good for the morale of the office geologists by giving them an opportunity to associate with their peers under open air and good fellowship conditions, to presumably learn from the guides who are familiar with the area, to see the exposed geologic features for themselves, and to trade ideas. You may have noted that I have used the alternative term study tour. For the great majority of geological field trip participants, they do so under the financial protection of an expense account, and study tour reads a bit more technical when preparing the expense account claims. I assure you that such study tours are quite beneficial to the participants and urge you to take part in every one that you can. The pictures that I have been taking over the past 25 years are film recordings of various happenings on those field trips that have been conducted by the West Texas Geological Society in various portions of the Permian Basin area.
Haig's final official committee participation would be in 1960 as a member of the Guidebook Committee. However, his active involvement within WTGS did not end there. As we have found with the films and photos we have preserved are footage from 1949, 1950, 51, 52, 54, 55, 58, 59, 1960, 1962, 64, 65, 68, 69, 1971, 1972, and 1974, including a Rockhounds golf tournament. Additionally, some of the film slides have led us down some rabbit holes. Like this photo at the UTPB building taken in 1968. The recognizable First Presbyterian spire in the background led us on a Google Earth hunt to see if the building was still standing and research to the history of its original use. It was named the UTPB building after WTGS's second president and housed the University of Land's office until it was auctioned off in 1944, which we also realized if we had the slide blown up, it says it on the building too. But as a slide, we couldn't see that part. It's amazing to consider that while documenting these field trips, Haig was already in his 70s and 80s. He was not one to let his age define him. As he was in his 90s, he began writing the definitive history of University of Texas land systems titled Land, Oil, and Education, a history of the University of Texas permanent fund endowment lands, a work of passion and labor he would not see come to fruition as he passed the year his work was published in 1986. As we prepare for the anniversary of the West Texas Geological Society, Bertie Haig's visual preservations of 4 decades of the Society's activities will be an integral part of piecing together stories, memories that were once thought to be lost to the sands of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Dr. Bob Trenum, I think you said yesterday you met Bertie Haig. Okay, so he's real. I'm going to introduce Haley Morales now, please.
I can use this one, but I'm not that tall. Is that okay? Thanks. Can everyone hear me? I'm really not that tall, so okay. So I'm Haley Morales. In researching the history of the WTGS, part of the Society's request was to compile a collection of records of times they were able to highlight their bond beyond being geologists, and part of that included their social gatherings, symposiums, annual symposiums, and monthly meetings. Also inclusion of their spouses occasionally. So what I've done for my part was just basically compile a timeline of the history of the WTGS's social gatherings. Starting with the symposiums, though, since we're at one, it's worth mentioning the first one occurred in 1989 and has been held annually since then, even through COVID. So when COVID-19 hit, like the rest of the world, WTGS had to adapt. In 2021, Oh no, I'm so sorry. In 2020, they hosted a virtual symposium. In 2021, it was hybrid. And then in 2022, they resumed with their in-person symposiums again. Arguably the largest of meetings in relation to the WTGS, the symposiums allow for pools of knowledge to be shared among like-minded individuals, allowing for a unique connection to occur for all of you to showcase your love of geology. I say all of you because I'm a historian. I mean, I love rocks, but I can't explain them the way that Katie did. Yep. So leading up to the annual symposiums are many meetings in which the WTGS comes together to display all of these same qualities on a smaller scale that allows for their large contribution every fall. So for example, the first WTGS meeting was held on January 16th, 1926, and 9 more meetings were held throughout that year as well. These meetings continued from 1927 through 1942 on an irregular basis with as little as 2 meetings per year and as many as 14 per year. In 1937, the meetings were no longer hosted in a rotation between San Angelo and Midland. They became permanently established in Midland, which allowed for more regularly scheduled meetings and higher occurrence rates. That is until 1943, when the WTGS experienced the effects of World War II, much like the rest of the country. The society meetings were held on a catch-as-can basis until 1945, when the society saw the opportunity to reintroduce scheduled meetings and even had 11 monthly meetings occur throughout that year. Further opportunities for more regularly scheduled meetings were presented in 1952 with the merging of the WTGS and the Midland Geological Society. This allowed for a much more dependable schedule of monthly meetings, and they have been held on a reliable basis since then. So 1952 to 2025 is like 70-something years? I don't do math either. Just history. Okay. Okay, so beyond society meetings and the symposiums, the WTGS has historically showed its appreciation and love for its members throughout its years in a variety of social gatherings. The first of which was in 1930 with the Tom and Jerry party. I was not alive in 1930, so I Googled that, Tom and Jerry parties. It says 2 things. One is a very rowdy party, and the other one is that Tom and Jerry was an alcoholic beverage, and that was celebrated at these parties. During Prohibition. So whatever definition of that you run with, or if someone can tell me what that means. I don't think any of us were there in 1930, but I could be wrong. In 1952, the first annual barbecue was held. The records that I've been able to find thus far show that the annual barbecue took place in 1964. That is not to be confused with the annual barbecues that occurred in the 2000s. This was distinctly different. And following that, in 1953, the WTGS showed their spouses appreciation for the first time by hosting their first Wives' Night dinner. Later that same year, the first Christmas dance and party was hosted as well, and that tradition chose to have occurred until 1992. When it was replaced in 2020, the gap between those, if anyone has information about that, I'd love that as well. In 2020, the Christmas event was replaced by an annual multi-society Christmas party, which still occurs on an annual basis. Will you please play this video? Thank you. One of the Society's favorite events, the golf tournament, the first one took place in 1959 alongside a coffee and cocktail hour. This opened the door for the WTGS annual Rockhound Golf Classic to develop, which was established in... Sorry. I talk too fast. I have asthma sometimes. In 1969, and it still occurs annually. So this video is footage of the 1974 Rockhound Classic tournament that was discovered by this project and then digitized by my fellow intern, allowing me to display this 1-minute video for you. I have been unable to identify any of these men, so if you recognize anybody or can tell me who won, a lot of the pictures that I've uncovered from the golf tournament are not labeled in the back. Like, you write on them, and that didn't happen, so. Wait, what's... All right. Not quite as popular as the golf tournament. In 1984, the WTGS hosted its first annual tennis tournament. Records show this took place until 1988, although sporadic tournaments have occurred since then. Throughout the 90s and the 2000s, there's been a variety of social gatherings. This includes clay shoots, pickleball socials, especially in the 2020s, pickleball, beer tastings, microbrewery tours, cocktail hours, bingo nights, hockey nights, many more. That's just lots of drinking, Judd. Lots of drinking. Again, the very first thing the society did was a Tom and Jerry party. So, I don't know, man. See? I'm just saying. Okay. Oh no, now I'm going to have, oh, there we go. Okay, so returning to the discussion of the 1950s for a minute. 3 years after that first Wives' Night was hosted, in 1953, the wives established their own society. In 1956, the Permian Basin Geological and Geophysical Auxiliary, also known as PBGGA, was established. Short-term, GeoWives, it's a lot easier to say. The auxiliary itself was open to female members and wives of the members of the WTGS and PBGS. The auxiliary maintained their own budget, held their own meetings, and even hosted their own social gatherings. Additionally, they hosted annual meetings in which the auxiliary and the geological societies attended to allow for commingling among members and spouses. These meetings were often barbecues. Each year, the wives would submit recipes to add to a PBGGA cookbook to be shared among the auxiliary. I have the cover of a cookbook. I don't have the cookbook. So again, if anyone has that. The auxiliary also hosted annual fashion shows, and the fashion items are often donated or borrowed from Jenny's collection. Jenny was also an auxiliary member. I'd love to tell you Jenny's last name. I don't have it. Pictured here is auxiliary member Paula Halbert participating in the 1986 fashion show, which was held at the Midland Country Club that year. The auxiliary itself often assisted in the background work of the WTGS functions, including setting up at annual symposiums. They are not participating in doing that anymore as they disbanded in 2017. They met to celebrate their 60th anniversary and voted to disband due to a significant reduction in numbers throughout its final years. However, one of the most memorable things they did before disbanding was participate in the revival of the Scarborough Lineberry House as part of their community outreach programs. Built in 1907, that house has donated to the city of Midland in the 90s and now serves as a city historical landmark. As a result, the auxiliary was able to host a vintage fashion show at the house with vintage fashion items borrowed from the cat's meow. So this information from the GeoWives actually came from Lynn James, who is on the far right of this picture. She was the president of the auxiliary its final year when it disbanded. She is also the wife of Daryl James, who was a WTGS member. He was a petroleum geologist and engineering petroleum consultant, as well as a previous partner and vice president of exploration of Tall City Exploration, and a published author. He's published 12 books. They're not about geology. They're stories. They're cool. It's about his time in Vietnam. Daryl James' accomplishments mirror many others of the members of the WTGS. It has been such a unique experience to study the history of this organization and its members and highlight some of their best moments as a group beyond being geologists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Haley. Very interesting. I'm going to bring up our last student, Ifanye Egbuta. Is that right?
Yes,
All right.
very right.
This? Or you want this?
No, I'll use this.
Okay. Laser pointer there. Advance the slides of that.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's been an honor to be a part of this research team, and I'm really excited to present to you some of our findings today. So I am focusing on the contributions of the West Texas Geological Society, regional and national contributions. Starting with the facilitation of fieldwork and research. The West Texas Geological Society has provided essential support for early field discoveries, including core workshops that preserve, analyze, and reassess the region's foundational wells. The society promotes the exchange of ideas and expertise through regular meetings, annual symposia, just like this one, field trips, and scientific publications. You can see one of the field trips. This was in Sierra Blanca, from one of the footage that was made possible by Bertha Hay, and we managed to digitize. And over to the next slide, the Permian Basin development. The society was instrumental in documenting the Permian Basin structure and potential, which led to its rise as one of the most productive oil and gas regions in the world, with billions of barrels of oil and trillions of cubic feet of gas produced since the 1920s. So over there you can see the W.H. Abrams 1, a marker of the W.H. Abrams 1 oil well, and to the other side you can see the Santa Rita #1, which is from the Big Lake oil field. These were the foundational wells in this region. The educational and community initiatives of the WTGS, it begins with the 1930 Midland Sample Library, which was an idea to help preserve knowledge and also to share knowledge. This Midland Sample Library served as a central repository for drillers' logs, facilitating communication and information exchange among oil companies invested in the region. And it was expanded in 1935 with the creation of the Technical Library that housed geological periodicals, reference text, and various essential works. Also, a lot of people may not have known that the West Texas Geological Society was very instrumental in the establishment of the Permian Basin Graduate Center. I actually did not know until a couple of weeks ago that we found out that actually the West Texas Geological Society supported or actually helped to make this a possibility. And eventually, the Permian Basin Graduate Center got absorbed into the University of Texas Permian Basin, of which we are students. And that's a very wonderful thing to know. So in continuation of the educational and community initiatives of the West Texas Geological Society, the society nurtures the next generation of geoscientists through scholarship programs and educational initiatives. It funds teacher training and recognizes excellence with awards and offers student scholarships for advanced studies in geology and related fields. So most of the scholarship programs by WTGS are being executed by the West Texas Geological Foundation, which is in charge of the scholarships. Because of want of time, I cannot mention all the scholarships, but most of these scholarships are annual scholarships, which always gives a chance for advancement, learning, and expansion of our current knowledge of the Permian Basin. In continuation of the contributions of WTGS, we have to go all the way back to the 1920s, even before the establishment of the organization. We had pioneer geologists in this region, such as Dr. Johann August Uden, who was instrumental in the discovery of potash deposits, especially in the Delaware Basin area. And the contribution of Dr. Johann August Uden and his team by discovering the potash deposits in this region, it really saved the country during the First World War, because most of the potash deposits most of the potash import into the U.S. were from Germany, and because of the war, there was a strained relation, and this was disrupted, and it threatened agriculture in the area. But with this discovery, there was food during the war. People didn't have to starve. In addition to that, during the World War II, in fact, at the beginning of the World War II, the WTGS, in association or in collaboration with the Permian Basin Engineering Association, they created an association called the Joint War Committee Effort. And this committee actually consisted of geologists and engineers, and it helped to provide a recommendation for these engineers and geologists who were willing to go fight in the war by placing them in the most suitable positions in the war, so that they wouldn't just go fight, like every other soldier, but putting their expertise into the war for maximum utilization. So due to the diligent work of this committee, 22 dedicated members of the West Texas Geological Society enlisted in active military service, many of whom were assigned to specialized units that leveraged their technical skills in geology and engineering. Finally, we must also mention the contribution of the society of the WTGS to Midland, because we're in Midland. We can't talk about the rest of the world or the rest of the country without talking about the impact that this great society has made in this city. And one of these is in 1950, in response to a request from the City Council of Midland, the West Texas Geological Society initiated a comprehensive study to assess the water resources available in Midland area. The committee appointed by the society was chaired by Ed Reed and conducted an in-depth analysis of the region's groundwater. I don't know anything about Ed Reed. And really, I urge you all, anyone who has information or family members, please reach out to us so that we can document this history better. And their meticulous study involved evaluating existing water supply data, conducting field surveys, and exploring potential sites for additional groundwater extraction. After thorough research, the committee compiled its findings and presented a detailed report to the City Council of Midland. But this report not only identified areas with significant potential for further groundwater exploration, but also provided a recommendation on suitable practices for managing these resources. So that is the end of my presentation, but I would also like to give you a little bit of data on what we've done so far. In the course of our research, we have confirmed 88 field trips by the WTGS. We have evidence of the documentation of 47 of these field trips, and we have listed their publication numbers for future reference. But we still have gaps that we have not filled. So many things that we do not know, and we're still trying to gather, we're still trying to know. And many of these areas that were visited during the field trips, some of these places are not accessible anymore, especially area around the Delaware Basin, the Van Horn area, Those areas, some of these places have been bought up and are private property. And so the only thing we know about these places are from the field trips that were conducted, and these were documented in the guidebooks. So this makes every field trip guidebook that we have invaluable, very valuable resource. And I urge you all, if you have anything from the past, if you have any publication, you have guidebooks, please reach out to Mr. Judd over here, because we have a list of missing publications. We don't have track of these things. These are lost, these are gone. Like, if no one can find this, it is gone forever. And these are wonderful work that shouldn't be lost. So, thank you so much for listening to us. All that we have done so far is just scratching the surface. There's still so much work to be done. I hope that with your cooperation, we will get the deed done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. That was great for each of your parts. Really, really good stuff. The overriding messages, they just started. We want to present a bunch of stuff next year. If you are somebody or know of somebody who knows one of these names or has one of these publications, reach out. let us know. Stop by the WTGS booth. All of the digitized videos that we have so far, there's more coming, are available for you to go and watch for free at home and send to anybody you want. We want any information that anybody can provide. And these students have got the ball rolling, so thank you guys.